And we'll return to our top story, that decision by Egypt's highest court to order the retrial of 3 Al Jazeera journalists convicted of spreading false news. We are joined by Gerges, Professor of Middle Eastern Politics and International Relations. Thank you very much for coming in. Now, a lot is being made about this geopolitical game that these men have found themselves embroiled in, that they are pawns. What's your take on what's happened to them?
Well, partly so. I think it's the role of geopolitics. It's the rivalry between Qatar and between Egypt. Qatar supports the Muslim Brotherhood. Qatar has Al Jazeera television stations. Egypt believes, the new administration believes that Qatar basically is playing a major role in supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, because what you have in Egypt now is almost a civil war between the Muslim Brotherhood on the one hand and its supporters and the new administration. Many Egyptians you talk to really believe that Al Jazeera is undermining the security and the stability of Egypt, and the local media in Egypt fed into this particular narrative. So you're right, it is part of the geopolitical crisis, and journalists, unfortunately, are paying a heavy price for that.
But at the moment, it looks like Qatar seems to be relinquishing somewhat its support for the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not being as supportive anymore, so it's downplaying that support that it had beforehand.
I think this is the new variable. The question really is, what has happened in the last few weeks? What you have now is a new rapprochement between Qatar and Egypt. Saudi Arabia has done its best to repair relations between Egypt and Qatar. So Qatar has shut down its basically affiliate, the Al Jazeera Mubashir Direct in Egypt, and also Qatar now supports less the Muslim Brotherhood. So what you're really seeing now, Egypt in many ways reciprocating by saying this is a first step, and that's why really it's a positive step. But I believe the nightmare of the journalists will most likely be over in the next, 5 or 6 or 7 weeks.
But could it not have been a bigger step? Of course, the families were desperately hoping for them to be released. They're not going to be released, they're going to be retried. Couldn't
Absolutely.
Egypt have done more?
Ironically, by the way, the appeals court could have made a decision today to release the 3 journalists. It did not. And this tells you a great deal about the politics of this particular case. What Egypt is really trying to say, we shall wait and see before the final decision is taken in the next few weeks. So the reality is, yes, the families of the journalists who have spent more than a year in prison, they were, as you know, sentenced between 7 and 10 years for a crime that the government has failed to provide hard evidence implicating the journalists in supporting the so-called terrorist charges.
Gerges from the London School of Economics, thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.